This first tutorial is how to get started with Photoshop. So I've just opened up Photoshop here and I'm going to go to New File. Whenever we start a new file in Photoshop, we'll get this pop-up window that comes up. It's going to look a lot like Illustrator, but there's a few things you need to be really important about how you use. The biggest thing is resolution. So if you're opening to different windows here and it gives you the default sizes and that kind of thing. You might notice that sometimes it'll go down to 72 ppi, which is pixels per inch, or we used to say DPI, which is dots per inch. That's your resolution. We always want to be print ready. So whatever size you choose for your canvas, make sure that you're also staying at 300. So we can do letter 8.5 by 11. I'm going to put it in landscape. And we're at that 300, which is super important. You can always name it here like we've done in the past. And hit create. So it looks a lot like Illustrator. It looks very similar to what we've been doing in the past. You're going to find all of the menus in the same place as Illustrator, the toolbars, the options bar, and your windows. The first time that you open Photoshop, you might want to do a couple of preference settings. So I'm going to hit Control K to bring up my preferences. You can also go to File, Edit Preferences down there at the bottom and bring them up. When we're in here, there's a few things that I like to do. One of them is use Legacy Free Transform. That means when I go to scale something up, I have to hold Shift. The newest updates, they undid that, so you can just click and drag and you don't have to hold Shift to keep it from distorting. But because I've been doing it for so long with the Shift, I like to have the Legacy Free Transform on so that it works the way I'm used to. You can look through here and see if there's other things you want to adjust, but that's the most important thing for me as I go through working with Photoshop. When you're down here in inches, you can change the rulers to inches. I'm sorry, when you're in units and rulers, you can change the units to inches, that sort of thing. So that's where all of that is. Control K, or under the edit menu. And there's a few different workspaces here as well. I usually work in Essentials, but painting is kind of cool too because it gives you all your colors and brushes and things right up. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to Essentials. And just like in Illustrator, when we want to save, we have to make sure we know where it's going. So we don't want to save in our downloads. We want to make sure it's somewhere that we're used to. And then you can put those where you need to, name it, and save it. Illustrator and Photoshop are very similar. They even talk to each other, so that's really cool when you have work in one that you want to bring into the other. Your tools are in the same place. If you hover over them, they tell you what they are. Because of my splitting my two screens right now, it's going the other way, but it'll tell you which tool it is as you hover. If it's got the little dude in the corner, the caret, you can hold it and you'll get more pop-up tools there. All of the letters there on the right are those hotkeys that you can start to learn. So B is the brush tool. Your rectangular marquee is M. And then I think you can toggle between the others. So there's a lot of good ones to know here. The lasso, eyedropper is one I use a lot. So eyedropper is I. And so these are really helpful to learn as you get working. The way Photoshop works is it works with layers. So when we are over here in our windows, we start with just a background layer. Anything we do might go exactly onto here, or it'll create a new layer. So you have to be very cognizant of what layers you're working with as you are building your designs. So you'll notice if I go get the type tool and start a text box, it is a new layer. I go back here to get my selection tool to move it around. You'll notice it's its own layer from the background. Now, if I get my paintbrush and it won't let me paint on there. And if I start painting, that is now on my background. It's not movable. I can't go in here and just like move that color because it's all raster based. So this is a raster based program. It's not a vector based program. So this is working with those pixels. You're changing them as you go. If I wanted to get rid of that, I would have to literally go in there and erase it or paint over it. So you'll see that these tools are a little bit different than you're used to in Illustrator. They work in a different kind of way. When you're in the layers panel, you'll see the background layer is typically locked. You can double click on the layer. You get this little window that comes up and you can name it or you just hit OK and now it's acting like a regular layer. You can do more with it. Any of the layers you have, if you need to delete them, you can drag them right down to the little garbage can. The little plus sign will give you a new layer to work on. You can group layers, there's adjustment layers, and all of this as we get more advanced into Photoshop. So you can be on different layers. You have your little eyeball and you can see the different ones. You'll see that background color is on there as white right now. There's under the gradient tool, you'll find the paint bucket. So let's say I picked a different color and I hit the paint bucket, it's going to hit that whole area. And you'll notice as I'm clicking different things, it might go to different layers. So you have to really be aware of what layer you are on. Okay. As you go through, you'll see that certain things work similarly, like Control Z. You can also check here, you have a history. So if I scroll down, you can see these are the things I've done so far today, step by step. Now it doesn't go forever. I don't know what the official kind of how many it'll save, but let's say you were working for a long time and you're like, oh, I'm at a really good spot and I want to be able to come back to this spot at some point. You can do what's called a snapshot. So when I create a snapshot, then it's up at the top of my history. So then if I do a bunch of other things, I change the colors, I do a bunch of different colors, I go over here, I paint some more things, and oh, look at this little dinosaur. Looks like the Loch Ness Monster. So I've got this little guy doing whatever he's doing. Now it looks like somebody's swimming, and I'm just going to keep painting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I don't want to do all this. And I want to go back to where I was. If you don't have it, like it's not scrolling that far back enough anymore or something like that, you can go back to your snapshot and get back where you are. So that's a quick like where things are. And then we'll get more into how to work with layers in the next video. Don't forget to save your work as you go.